Welcome back to the Look Up podcast.
Hello.
Hello. It's your host, Alani
And Roman. How you doing?
We're back. We're in the car. It is another beautiful Sunday. And we're excited to talk with you guys again today.
Absolutely.
And, just kind of share, where things are at and how things are going.
Right. And just talk more about God, right? And talk about some of the stuff that maybe you don't hear very often. But awesome. Well, how have you been, Alani? I think we just heard a really good message. And I definitely have some stuff that I want to share.
I do too.
So
I've been good. I feel like, it's about to be Thanksgiving week. It's like the holidays are kicked in. We put up our tree.
We did.
Our Christmas stuff already.
We doing too much? No,
we're
not
excited
doing
about the holidays. It's just such a joyous season, and it's
right.
kicking in. The weather's cold now.
We're one of those couples that literally put the tree up early, and then we don't take the tree down until like late January. So.
True.
We don't play around
almost
when it comes
to Christmas is such a Christmas is such a good time. You know what I mean? Like, why didn't you not want to celebrate it?
You want to keep that feeling,
Speaking of, it's like kind of sad that sometimes it's like you don't feel okay to say Christmas anymore,
right.
Where it's like you feel almost like, is it okay if I say Merry Christmas, or is that offensive? Which is kind of sad.
Happy holidays.
You have to say Happy Holidays or Merry Xmas or, or really, Happy Holidays, I guess, because you make sure we're being inclusive.
See, for me, I'm just like, if you don't believe it, then why does it offend you? That's my point of view. Like, if you truly do not believe Christ came and, he sacrificed himself and he was born and he rose from the dead, if you don't believe that, it shouldn't matter what people say. Like, if you truly do not believe Christ is real and he exists, then someone saying Merry Christmas to you doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
That's like saying, if you don't believe in ghosts and someone says a ghost is going to haunt you, you don't get offended. You say, all right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Right? So it's just like.
That is so true.
But the reason why you get offended, because there might be something in your heart that might be thinking the opposite. And you want to hold on to your beliefs so bad. You want to guard your beliefs so bad. Because I think a lot of the times we don't want to be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I know I don't.
No, we all have egos and we want to protect that. So,
right.
Anyways, I'm going to say it. Merry Christmas.
Yep. Merry Christmas.
Happy New Year.
And Happy New Year. A little early.
But just some of the things that I was thinking about. And honestly, it was just what we just got from service and some other things too that I kind of brought up in my mind, my memory bank. It was starting to pull from is just the idea of what faith is. And we kind of talked about it a little bit last episode. We were sharing about faith and works, but I think also just looking at faith in terms of a mentality, that it isn't just optimism. And I remember often in times of my past where I'm like, oh, I just need to have faith that everything's going to be okay. And you just try to be positive all the time and optimistic. And I think that it almost I'll speak on my own. It made me almost resent it, or just I don't want to have faith. I don't feel being positive. But that isn't necessarily what that means. It isn't jumping around and saying, oh, everything's gonna be all right. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And happy clappy and woohoo. That's not faith.
No.
It's just having the faith and believing that God is bigger than your problems, and God's presence is enough.
Right.
And with God, all things are possible.
Right.
It doesn't
mean that you
are putting it all up. And I think that's where the mix-up begins, is that you believe, when you say, for example, I have faith, you almost think that it's all up to you. And if you just stay positive, things will work out. Right. When in reality, it's not about you, it's about God.
Right. You can have faith and still be mad about the situation.
Right.
You can have faith and still be, upset and in distress. I mean, I guess for lack of a better example, look at the Jewish people in the Holocaust. You know what I mean? They had faith in a tough situation. There's no way that they were happy about that situation. Right. But they kept faith and God delivered them through that. And there's tons of situations like that throughout the Bible, even where, look at Job. Job is the same way. He was not happy about that situation in the Bible, but he never renounced God. He never said
That's true.
that God was not his savior, and that he was not happy about the situation at all. Sick, right. Lost everything. You know what I mean?
His family dead. His home gone. His career shattered.
Right.
Broke, homeless, and now without a family.
And sick.
And him having faith didn't mean I'm going to stay positive. Him having faith meant I trust you, Lord, in all things that are going to happen. And that doesn't mean that he cannot therefore then still be sad. I think so many times when like I would be sad, I'd be like, oh, well, maybe I don't have faith then. And that's not true like at all.
No, it's not. So I think that's just like maybe a manufactured version of faith, of what people think faith is.
Yeah, because I think it's used so often in like this like success culture talk, where it's like you got to have faith and you got to, put in the work and all this kind of stuff. And I think we then start to believe that faith is something that's all on us to have, and like all on us to then produce the results of what that faith brings. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But it's true. When we were listening to Graves in the Gardens today, I was like, there's a part of the song that I never heard before, even though I've listened to it, 50 times. But he was just like, the God of the mountain is the God of the valley, right? That same God. It's the same God that's in the mountain. It's the same God that's in the valley. And I think some people, like for me, at least, when I first listened to it, I was like, oh, the God of the mountain. Meaning like when I'm when I'm on top, he's still my God. And when I'm in the valley, he's still my God. But I was just like, but what about a mountain is easy? Right? I started thinking about that. I was just like, what about a mountain is easy? Like getting to the top and getting to where you want to go in life, it's going to be a journey. It's a struggle. You got to hike. You got to set up base camp along the way sometimes and kind of wait it out and then keep going and then going and going. Then you finally get to the top. So God being with you, even in those hard times when you hit that point in your life that you've been looking for, and God is still there, even in the valley, when you're at your lowest and your lowest and your lowest. And sometimes it feels easy to be in the valley than it does being at the top, right? Like going downhill is easy. Going into the valley is easy. But that your God is still there with you. You know what's the enemy of that? I'd say I'd rather be in the valley or be climbing a mountain versus just being in the middle. I think being in the middle is when you don't need God. Yeah. I think coasting is when you don't need God. When you're not climbing and you're not hitting a low, that's when you're the furthest from God.
Well, I mean, it's easy to go to God when you, like, kind of what our pastor was talking about, when you're desperate and you need him. Like, you need a miracle, like you're sick or you're broke or you're hurting and in pain or you're in grief. It's easier to come to him, like, when tragedy happens, they say that, like, typically the number of attendance in church increases, like during times of tragedy. During times of tragedy, religion's usually like number one and at the forefront in a lot of like cultures and stuff. So anyways, back to my point, it's easy to come to him in times of trouble, but it's also at the same time, like you were kind of just bringing up, also really easy to come to God when things are amazing. You just want to say, praise Lord, like I just got climb. I got what I'm looking for, like I hit my goal, like I made it to that point that I was looking at. It's easy to also praise him in times of that. But how about in times of like when things aren't going great, but things are also not bad? It's easy for us to
forget about them.
Yeah.
When you're just like, in the middle.
I'm okay. Things are okay. I don't have any.
When you're not climbing and you're not at rock bottom, you're just good. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That's the hardest part. That's the challenge as Christians, because I feel like majority of us are there. Right? A majority of us are just in the middle. And we're not climbing, we're not hitting rock bottom, we're just in the middle, and we forget about him, and we grow far away from him. So I think the enemy is the middle. But if you can learn to just stay connected with him and be with him while you're in the middle, he'll meet you there. He'll meet you anywhere. He'll meet you at the bottom, he'll meet you at the top, he'll meet you in the middle. But I feel like the hardest part to stay connected with him is in the middle, in my personal opinion. So, I don't know, maybe we need to get desperate. Maybe we need to get to a point where there's nothing else we can do but ask him for help. right? I'd rather be desperate than be in the middle. You know what I mean? Closer to him, asking him for help, being connected with him versus not. And I've been there for a long time. And I'm tired of being in that area where I see him on Sundays and then that's it. Right? So I don't know. That's something that popped up in my head midway through church.
Nice. Yeah, those are some good points.
Yeah. There's nothing better than you. But yeah, anyway, but I just wanted to bring that up, that he is the God of all parts of your life. And when you step into that, I think that's great. And that sometimes you need to push certain people out of your life in those situations in order to make sure that you start on a trajectory that you want to go, that you get out of the middle. Because you're going to have, it's like what Pastor Judd says, you're going to have fans, you're going to have naysayers and hecklers, and then you're going to have coaches. And I think the challenge is, and I think what we should always be praying for, and what I'm going to be praying for, is knowing the difference between those three. Because sometimes people can be disguised as fans, but they're actually hecklers.
Yeah, like I know that we recently had to remove a lot of people from our life, like, you know, earlier this year, really, mainly this year. And just cutting off like a whole group of people that we spent 5-6 years with, thinking they were our fans, thinking they were really cheering us on, but in reality they were holding us back in what, you know, we believe God's calling for us was, because we didn't feel like it was right in their eyes. And we then started to like, it's easy for us being natural. I think that's why all of us are natural people pleasers, because really we were created to please God and to live for him. And so the easiest way for the devil to kind of like get in between you wanting to please God is like turning that, because, you know, like we were talking about many times, the devil cannot create, he can only manipulate. And so he can't create this new feeling in us. We have this innate
already
feeling in us to want to please a higher power, God, to want to do better and to serve a higher power, the Lord. It's what we were created for. We were created to praise him and worship him. And when we start drifting, the devil can kind of come right in there and just shift that innate feeling that we already have to please a higher power, to serve a higher power, and look and shift what that higher power is in your mind to be a person, a man. And what, you know, that's how I think we were stuck in. We were stuck in looking to start pleasing a man, servicing a man, and treating another human as if they were higher, greater, better than us. And we were thinking that we would call these people our fans. We would call these people that were coaches. They're on our coaches. They're on our team. They want us to be better. But in reality,
it was manipulation.
And so I think it's a really good, I think it's really good that you mentioned that, to just pray on understanding who in your life is meant to stay and who do you need to really draw up a boundary and maybe just completely remove altogether.
And you need to tell them to get out.
And get out of your life.
Get out of the room.
They are maybe holding up your blessings. And I do feel that. I remember struggling with depression for really intensely the past 5 years.
6-7 years,
And I was like really, really down, and there was nothing I could do. And kind of how I was talking about that earlier in this episode, that I was just trying to have faith and thinking that I just got to be more positive and things are going to be okay. And that just drove me even deeper into depression. And it was because I was around people who were, I don't want to blame them for putting me there, but the environment is just so important and so key that it really just got into my mind and always making me think I was never enough because I was trying to serve a man. You'll never feel enough trying to serve a man, because the man will never fill that.
No.
He can't fill that hole that only God can fill in your heart. He can't make you, he can't give you the blessings that you're asking for. He can't give you the peace that you're looking for. He can't give you the joy that you're seeking. A man can't do that for you. Or woman. Whatever. I'm just saying man as in human.
And you're searching for it and you're feeling that, man, it's impossible for me to be happy. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
In man's power. in man's might and within man's grasp. You need supernatural help.
Yeah.
You need spiritual help. You need help that's beyond this planet in order to feel that joy and to feel that happiness that you're looking for.
Yeah.
That's what people don't get. And they'll search their entire life looking for it and go through divorce after divorce and relationship after relationship or whatever it may be. It may not even be like looking for that type of love, but you're really just looking for an intimate relationship with someone that knows you beyond you. And you'll never find that on this earth. You just won't. And that's why you have to just put your priorities together. It's got to be God, then it's got to be your relationship, and then everything else comes after that. And then you kind of mix it up.
Yeah, or even just trying to like find purpose too, like we were talking about a lot, where it's like you'll try and jump from career to career or thinking like this next business move is going to help you feel that purpose,
Right.
And then you do it and you still feel empty.
Right.
And that's where I think we were at also, is just trying to fulfill these goals and ambitions that we had in our life
weren't even ours.
With these like quote unquote business opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just really pulling us further back and further away from
Right.
God, because we were trying to fill that hole in our heart of purpose, of fulfillment, of servitude,
Right.
with something super,
and just the feeling that you're just doing the right thing and you're in the right place and you're living out your purpose in life and in God's will in your life. I've been searching for that feeling for a long time. And today in church, I prayed super hard. I was just like, God, forget the money, forget the success, forget the fame. Lengthen my cords, increase my influence so I can increase you. What if you just prayed that and that was your prayer and that's truly was your heart? What would change?
Yeah.
And some people he's going to bless.
There's a worship song too that says, all I ask or all I need is you, Jesus.
Right.
Like your presence is enough, and I'm
Yep.
sorry when I've
come
into the motions and I've
agenda.
come with my agenda.
Yep.
Like I'm sorry for trying to come to God and say like, hey, I need this, and this, and this.
Right.
Thank you, bye. You know what I mean?
If you're my God, you'll bless me.
But all you really need is like Jesus.
That's
and
it.
That should all be enough.
You should have no fear, no doubt, none of that when you truly believe.
And I think so many times it's like, okay, then here's what the objections would be. Like, one, well, I need food. Like, I need money to live. Like, I need a place to rest my head at night. And it's like, if you just remember that verse, and I believe it's in Matthew, it's like that. I mean, you don't look at the birds and see like they're all taken care of. They never go hungry. And
Right.
like, you're way more important than the birds. He's like, you don't see these flowers and how beautiful dressed they are and how gorgeous they look. He's like, you're way more important than the flowers to me in my eyes.
Right.
And if you look around at we were talking about in the nature, and you can see all like the stuff that he's done already
in detail.
And you are much more important to him than all of that is around you. Yet
Right.
he puts so much detail into that. Imagine the detail he's putting in the love he's putting into your own life.
Yep.
And so you just got to remember that when it feels like, what, all I need is Jesus? Yeah, all you need is Jesus. And I think so oftentimes it's like, it's almost laughable in terms of like, when you are someone who doesn't yet understand the power of God, it can sound almost laughable that really all I need is God. God's going to give me the power for all this and that. And
sure.
Yeah. No, yeah. He really will.
Right.
He really will.
Test him. Give him a shot. Try it out. We'll see. I've been on a fast and I've learned a lot.
Oh, yeah.
In that
Roman's
fast.
Been fasting. Well, okay. So he started last Monday, but then he broke it on Friday. So today's now Sunday.
Uh-huh.
It's been about like 2 days since he broke the fast.
Uh-huh.
I think he's going to break it again today.
And then I started it back up, so it's been 2 days since I've eaten again.
Uh-huh.
But I fasted for 5 days. I broke it. And then I'm back on this is the second day. I think I'm about to break it again. But what I've learned is that man truly does not need to survive off of bread alone. They say like I was feeling crazy throughout of it in some points and stuff like that. My mood was weird and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So I started looking stuff up and doing research, and I'm just like, is it true that I might die if I don't eat? And everything that I was reading online, you should be eating every 24 hours. You should be eating. You shouldn't fast for more than a day. Or you shouldn't fast for more than 2 days. And I'm like, but I did it though. But I did not eat for 5 days, right? Like,
and you were fine.
And I was fine. like with energy, like dancing and jumping around. Like there was times where Alani was like, "Are you sure you didn't eat?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So it's just like, it's true. When you believe and you have that faith, and you just understand that he's bigger than science, he's bigger than all of this other stuff that we've been led to believe, and that he will work in your life, you'll strange things will happen if that makes sense. I mean, there's stories where people have, I mean, I think there's like a story on Netflix or something like that where this like 14-year-old girl didn't eat for like, I think it was like a month or something like that. But it was based on a true story. Did you know that? Mm-hmm. And like these nuns came and they tried to figure out like how she was able to do that. But I don't know if it's a scary movie or not, but that just reminded me of Jesus' fast when he went into the forest and he fasted for, a month and a half.
I've heard stories and from people in my own life who have fasted for longer than a month and all this and that. And like the spiritual journey that you will go on from removing so much of this need in your life. It's like you're killing off the desire in yourself for even something as you trivial think that you need as food,
right.
It's almost like they call it like a dying to self, where it's like you kill off all of your
fleshly desires. Yeah.
Yep.
And if you can break something as essential as eating, nothing can have control over you.
Right.
No addiction, no stronghold can have control over you. Because you do essentially need to eat, and you find out you don't. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's like a mind-breaking kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And your brain can just do more than you think.
Yeah.
And isn't it funny that we refer it to in the third person, like your brain, like it's not ours?
Right, because it almost like we don't have full control over our brain.
Right.
Interestingly enough. Like, it's not like with a hand where it's like you look at your hand, you can move each finger, and you can tell it what to do. You know what I mean? Your brain is.
You can't tell your brain.
You can't tell your brain what to do. It's like, for
it's
example, you have a thought and you're like, I don't want to think that. It's going to come in your head anyways.
Right.
And it's almost just
I've never thought about it that way.
They say that you can't kill your own self from like stopping breathing. Like your body will like
it won't
let you.
Right.
Which is crazy, that your brain is overpowering all of that. So it's like the brain is a really cool thing. For some of you guys who don't know, I actually studied neuroscience in college for only like a year. But I was really intrigued by how the brain worked and how it's just such an interesting, intricate masterpiece, really, if you think about it, like what God created in all of us and how it can do so much with so little of us participating in it, in its activity.
Right. What do you think is stronger, though? The soul or the brain?
I haven't really learned much on the soul, so I'm not going to speak on that. I don't really know anything out of it.
What do you think is speaking right now, then? Is it your brain or is it your soul? Or is it the same thing?
I don't know. I've never thought of that, so I don't know.
That's what, when you were saying that made me think about it. It's just like, because it's true, a lot of the stuff that we do is just autopilot. Mm-hmm. We don't put any thought into it. A lot of it, we don't have a say. Like, how many of these breaths have you taken today where you really had a say into it?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's your
subconscious that works.
Right.
And like they say, we've only tapped into a small percentage of our brain. I don't remember what it is, but it's a small percentage. So, thinking of that, it's crazy. And how much more like control we would have in our life if we realized that we could tap it more into our brain. But we crowd our brain. We make it focus on trivial things. And so it's thinking about all these trivial stuff instead of like you really tapping in and honing in on, like the monks, how they can like quote unquote levitate or something, like
and they go with months without eating
and they can go months without eating, and they go like a year without speaking.
Could you imagine?
And the type of things that they're able to do because they're tapping into their brain. It's wild. We could go a whole topic on just the brain because
they don't have crazy. Like Instagram and YouTube.
And the news.
What would you do with your time?
There's so much. So anyways, thank you guys for listening. Psalms 121 verse 1 through 3.
I lift my eyes up to the mountains. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. We love you guys. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Thanks for listening.